stunned because there's paper everywhere. Like everyone keeps talking about like it was like
ticker tape parade. Because they said that was the first time they saw it. When the paper first happened. They saw a guy in the office talking about paper blowing past, and he's just like, "Oh, some kind of parade happening. I wonder what we're celebrating."
Yeah, they're making jokes like, "Oh, Yankees win a World Series again." It's just that's what people thought. And there's a woman on the street that is just picking up paper off of the ground and calmly shuffling it. And just broken, just not in disbelief.
It's either
doing something,
fight or flight, or just try to stay busy.
I always
literally distract your mind in any way possible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, when the terrorism comes, I immediately snap into secretary mode.
Yeah, I mean literally, there is no fight. Yeah. What are you fighting against?
There's no fight. Yeah. So 22 minutes after the Pentagon, the South Tower, the second one to be hit, falls first. And in both video and picture, you can see it's amazing to watch this.
It's crazy.
You can see the corner of this building. You can see it slowly buckle in. And you see at the point where it buckles, the top of the tower falls over to the side and then comes down like that. Like it is the most action movie. Unreal.
It's scary.
It's the most unreal thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, honestly, when I watched the Avengers movie, every one of those Marvel films, they trashed Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it does make me think, like, when you live in New York, you start to realize that those aren't buildings. Those are like, there's a bunch of people in there. And I'm like, I don't know if the Avengers are very good. I think I just kind of don't even want them in the city anymore. They just try. Like,
how many thousands has the Hulk murdered?
Oh, just so many. And it's like, I know you killed like one really bad guy, but then you killed so many good people.
Yeah. But I do that regularly, walking down the street when I'm in Manhattan, and I look up, and like because of seeing this footage over and over again, I can just see a building blow out.
Yeah. It was unimaginable. Again, though, keep in mind, unimaginable before what this would actually look like.
Yeah, and I've been sitting and it's such a surreal experience. I've been sitting in this office and we're out in Queens, but you can see the Manhattan. I can walk out of the door right now and I can see the entire Manhattan skyline.
Yeah, you can see the Freedom Tower, the whole thing.
Yeah, I can see absolutely everything. And after sitting here, especially watching 102 and listening to it, how loud it is, and going out there, you are amazed at how quiet it is out there, and you just feel that same sort of feeling that they probably felt that day on that just beautiful morning. It's like it's just so quiet and so still, and it is eerie, and you have a laser sharp focus. Like you are aware of everything around you because you are in it. You're here. Like you can look and you can see that is where it happened over there.
Yeah,
I was down there for the 9/11 museum. You're in it. Like you are actually in it. The 9/11 museum is built in what they called the bathtub, which is where there was the 6 floors below the tower. Where
Marcus,
the slurry
I
wall
think you're just denying the fact that we got a brand new shiny tower that we're all supposed to look at instead.
It's actually very beautiful.
It's a
nice
beautiful tower.
It's especially especially when you stand at the foot of it and look straight up. Like it is a beautiful tower. So let's hear, like, speaking of which, and being down there, this is footage. This is news footage from NBC4. This is a reporter talking to a woman on the street, and while he's talking to her, the first tower falls.
Okay, 2 blocks away from where the whole thing happened, and this entire area has been cordoned off, and people that have been working in nearby buildings have been told to evacuate. That's what this mass exodus is to my left-hand side. To my right, we have 2 witnesses, and as we speak with you two, we're going to pan up and show a shot of what we see from this vantage point. First, Marna Ringel. And Marna, you work across the street. Tell me exactly what you saw on the street, and as you looked up, what you saw, because you said you saw the second one. Am I correct?
No, I didn't see the second one. I actually was coming out of the building, and there was maybe about 30 or 40 people at the bottom of One World Financial covered in blood. I did not expect that at all, and I work for Lehman in One right here, and a gentleman that I work with was on the telephone. He said, "What was that?" I said, he thought it was thunder. I looked over, screamed, "It's a bomb," because I saw a piece of the building flow down, and I think I scared my entire floor because I can scream pretty loud, and it was pretty bad.
Now, you mentioned that you saw people on the road outside of the building. Explain that scene.
I saw there's maybe about 30 or 40 people covered with bandages and blood. It looks like a lot of them were either on the floor of one of the exchanges. There's actually, oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
We're not sure exactly what happened, but it was another explosion on the far side of one of the buildings from where we're standing.
Oh
the reverberation, and another explosion on the right-hand side. Another building has gone up on the right-hand side of the road. People are now running down the street. We're not sure if that was another explosion or if that was advanced debris. Joining me also is Jim Plant. Jim, you're also a witness of what happened.
And people do take that, like, he says explosion multiple times. Many of the conspiracy theories people are just like, see, it's proof. Very rarely do people utter what actually happened the moment that it occurred.
Well, it's like a dream
Hindsight
logic.
is 2020 for a reason.
Yeah, and I mean, there's other footage that does point towards that. We're going to look to, again, with Building 7, we'll talk about in the next episode. There's stuff like that. But this is just the belief, again, that the buildings just don't fall down.
Well, and you saw it, all of the news footage that I saw, they're all looking at a wide shot, or most of them are. This is the only one where there's someone on the ground as it falls. Every other one is looking at a wide shot of the building, and none of them even entertain the idea that the building fell.
Right.
Well, watching 102 Minutes, nothing is quite as brutally upsetting as watching that wall of debris come slamming down the street. I'm watching it on the edge of my seat. I'm next to tears, just imagining just that, because that's doomsday, right? That's exactly how you kind of picture it. It's just this fucking wall of chaos and can't stop anything.
And it's strange because you see it and it feels like it's alive.
Yeah.
It is like a living entity coming after you.
There's a certain shot.
So bizarre.
There's a certain shot of a woman that's in a building, and she's got her camera looking out onto the street, and you hear this noise coming just like this, and then it looks like a monster that just goes, and all the dust and debris falls in. And
again, the saddest, most intense, real found footage horror film that's ever happened. And the monster it's a smoke monster, almost from the film or television show Lost.
And it's legitimately a wall of cancer.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
my
what
God. We're going to find out later.
Oh yeah. So sad.
They said that it was so that there was a guy that told a story that said that he was literally reaching into his mouth and pulling out piles, this gunk.
Well, you watch the dude. There's like that. I mean, also 102 Minutes. You just see this police officer who's walking around. He's got some sort of helmet cam or something. He takes off the helmet, and you just see him, and it's just water shooting out of a wall, and he's just like scrambling at his face, and he's just washing himself with and none of the other New Yorker knows you don't wash yourself with random water.
No.
that you see in Manhattan.
Usually it's not water.
Yeah. And so he's just splashing it all over his face. It's fucking just brutal.
Yeah. And remember that the first tower to fall was the second one to be hit because it hit much lower than the first one. So over in the North Tower.
And I want to say again, 2 blocks away, New York City blocks, I walk 1 block in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
So they are very, very close. These are not the Mississippi block. This is a New York City block.
They're very close.
Especially in the financial district.
Oh, yeah. So the North Tower, remember, there is still over 1,000 people trapped above the fire that is impossible to escape.
Now, do you think that these people are still alive, or do you think smoke inhalation
no, I know there are people still alive because there were people stacked 4 to 5 high hanging out of the windows. This is when the majority of falls begin. There's one person tells of a story. It's actually this is actually put up on the wall. The 9/11 Museum has a jumper room. Where it has a plaque that says warning extremely graphic content, and you walk into this little room and it's just showing 5 pictures on a loop of the people falling, specifically the falling man photo, which
very beautiful picture,
which causes such a huge controversy, and especially the controversy afterwards. There was a paper in Pennsylvania that published an actual picture, published that picture gigantic on the back page, and it caused such an outrage. And I think, and this is what is fascinating to me, and I think really shows the disconnect that people had about this day, is the news media showed the towers falling over and over and over again for weeks. You just saw them fall. You saw them fall 5 times a day.
Well, and like we were talking about earlier, then it did become used for more desensitizing,
but we were talking,
more propaganda.
But what I'm saying is that the images of the falling people were taboo. You couldn't, you would not, people just wanted to pretend that they didn't exist, because it's like Joseph Stalin said, that famous quote, 1 million deaths is a statistic. 1 death is a tragedy.
Now, the other thing, too, is, again, I mean, this is just to put this out there, conspiracy thought, too, is that I think it is important that all of this footage exists.
Yeah.
Right? I think we're supposed to be able to see this stuff and know that it happened, know that it's real, see the falling people. That's how you know it's real. That's how you know it's a real event. You watch it. But then you're going to also see, again, how that imagery is then twisted. And they use it. It's about optics. They use them to set up something for themselves to get something out of it. And those people, the reason why they're afraid of people, it's the same thing with what happened when we were fighting in Afghanistan and in Iraq. What they do is they don't want to show pictures of the fucking caskets that our soldiers are in, because that would make it far too fucking real.
Yeah, or any of the combat footage like they did in Vietnam, where they showed actual dying soldiers on the news every night.
They love keeping it a hologram because the pictures of those towers falling, if you just show them on loop without fucking zooming in on them, those look like a goddamn action movie. And it makes you fucking pumped to go do something about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like when you watch the people just falling, you start putting your dad in there, you start putting your brothers in there, your cousin, you start putting those people's faces on those people, and then, you know, our government loves our hologram fucking reality.
Yeah.
Like they want to keep it alive.
I mean, it's anger versus sorrow. You watch the towers fall, you feel anger. You see the people fall, and you feel sorrow. Two very different emotions that are used for two very different things. Sorrow can be a very, I guess, personal emotion, a very private emotion, but anger is shared. And
it's
that
great,
is,
and
that
it's
is
useful.
Yeah, it's
both useful for their own reasons.
Yeah, exactly. So you're looking up at the first tower has fallen. People are holding on to each other across the dividers to balance themselves. They're leaning out of windows. They are 100 floors up. Imagine looking down. They are 100 floors up. They are looking down. They are in a literal chimney. The smoke has enveloped the entire structure, and they are looking down from 100 floors up. You saw one group of 5. They're stacked on each other. One group of 5 either all decided to go together, or just one person slipped and pulled all the rest of them down. People saw, like, and you kind of think watching this footage, it's like, how many people jumped? Like, I think if you ask most people, like, okay, how many people do you think jumped from the top of the World Trade Center? A lot of people would probably say, like, I don't know, 10, 20. It was over 200 that jumped. We will never know exactly how many.
Because the jump, you know, well, I don't want to get too grisly with that, but, you know, I'd rather fly for a second instead of being cooked like a goddamn turkey in my office. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I hated to be every day.
Yeah.
Tough to say. Tough to say.
So these buildings, they're filled with black smoke that most of the office workers, they had no idea what to do, where to go. These buildings were an acre in area. They were 70% the size of a football field.
This next tidbit's really interesting.
Yeah, the only people that were prepared were the employees of Morgan Stanley, because their director of security, this guy named Rick Rescorla, he was known as the man who saw it coming.
And who must have been a pain in the ass until the day.
Huge pain in the ass, because this guy, he was convinced, like, he knew, okay, the first building, and he had this buddy that was also kind of a security director, and he asked him, he's like, okay, so what do you think? They're going to do it again? The guy's like, absolutely. Of course they're going to do it again.
Absolutely. He's just sitting there and he's just like, absolutely. What a big fucking stinking talking. You don't think they're going to come for us? You don't think they don't want to take our fucking freedom?
Yeah.
And they're like, all right, calm down, fucking Rick.
Yeah, and so they're like, how are they going to do it? They're like, oh, they're going to come. They're going to come by plane. So he forced Morgan Stanley employees for years to do fire drills. He would time employees and bitch them out if they were too slow. And about Columbine, this is what he said about Columbine.
The police was sitting outside while kids are inside getting killed. They should have put themselves between the perpetrators and the victims. That was abject cowardice. If we were younger, we could have flown to Colorado, gone in that building, and then in that shit before the law did.
Yeah, this is how confident this guy was in his ability. He's like, oh, fuck, man, if I was 20 years younger, I would have got on a plane.
I would have killed them kids. I would have killed them. Tell me some kid, they're going to shoot all the
killed
shots.
them motherfuckers. And this is how successful he was. And without this man, the body count would have been so much higher. He successfully evacuated 2,687 Morgan Stanley employees from the World Trade Center complex. And the last time they saw him, he was on the 10th floor of the South Tower, heading up.
So the guy's a pain in the ass in your office? That guy who's like always talking about regulations and shit like that? Sometimes he could save your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as New York is unfolding, passengers on Flight 93, they're on their way to the Capitol. Flight 93, it's on its way to the Capitol building in D.C. It's 40 minutes behind the other three, and they're getting word on the ground that the other two planes that already crashed into the World Trade Center. And, as the story goes, they fought back, and I'm pretty sure that although Dick Cheney, he definitely authorized the shooting down of Flight 93, but the black box recording, which is public knowledge, you can hear from the cockpit, it points more towards the terrorist crashing the plane rather than letting the passengers take control. Because you hear you hear this fight behind the door, and you hear the guy Ziad Jarrah. He's saying like, "Hold the door, hold the door, hold the door," and they're about to get through, and he just starts screaming, "Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar," and he screams it 7 times on the way to the ground, and it crashes in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, whether it was shot down or not, 20 minutes away from D.C.
Well, if it was shot down, I would have no problem with the government doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have
absolutely not.
You have
absolutely
to do it. It's a missile at this point.
It's fucked up. It's
and
horrible.
if they shot it down, you also got to kind of think, it's like if they did shoot it down in that time after, like, we needed something. Like just some sort of, I don't know, some sort of like fighting back type of thing.
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's like,
It just sucks that we had to kill how many innocent people in order to do it's that fucked up, it's that horrible rock and hard place scenario where it's like, you can't let them hit the Capitol building.
yeah.
Like it's not because the president is more fucking precious than anybody else, but because of the symbolism.
Yeah.
You look at the symbolism of what the World Trade Center falling down does, both psychically and politically.
Mm-hmm.
It's, forces you into a 15-year forever war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
that's why presidents are always hated, because literally it's impossible to make a good decision. You just have to choose the lesser
of two evils.
Yeah, lesser of two evils. So a little less than 30 minutes after the South Tower collapses, the North Tower goes down as well. And so now you've got a debris cloud that is 2 entire buildings. And one witness on the ground, he described the cloud as, he said, quote, almost solid. There was not even sound. Like they say, like after it fell, that there wasn't even sound traveling through this field. And one witness, and this is just terrifying, one witness said the only thing he could see was the flickering light of burning paper.
Jesus Christ.
That was
crazy.
it. This is and this here is footage from a man on the street right after it happened.
What happened? It collapsed. The top floors collapsed down. I saw it blow and then ran like hell. Thank God. I'm 69, but I can still run. There's got to be firemen trapped back there, though.
By the way, that is just how badass a New Yorker is. Like he's almost laughing. Like to the point, I'm 60. I can't believe I can still do this.
Yeah, it's like I can't believe 69.
Well, yeah, one thing in 102 minutes showed was this fucking immensely fat man. He's like 350 pounds in a
huge.
suit, and he's like, and he comes back, and he cuts the reporter. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I gotta go. I got my friend Nicky. My friend Nicky's walking down there. And he's like,
Yeah, he's like, I gotta see if my friend's okay.
Yeah.
And
It's
he's just like,
unbelievable.
and he's just dabbing it. But the thing that, because I'm an audio guy, the thing that has haunted me the most is like, I don't know if y'all heard that the sound in the background, that kind of siren sound. What that is, it's called a pass alarm, and what that is that if a firefighter is motionless for more than 30 seconds, that goes off.
oh yeah. So when you watch 102 minutes, you hear this sound over and over again, and each
Yeah.
one of those noises is a dead firefighter.
Yeah, this is actually this is a clear clip. I haven't been able to be in silence for the last week because if it's silent, I hear it.
It almost sounds like when you go out to the wilderness and you just hear the bugs.
The crickets,
yeah, the crickets.
Yeah.
That is almost what it sounds like. But yeah, that noise. I remember seeing a video of that in like maybe a month after, like it was on set back when you had to download videos to watch them. I remember seeing that, and that noise has haunted me for 14 years. Like
Right.
it is. It's horrific, and I never want to hear it again.
Right.
Yeah, I never do. And so ERs, after the second tower fell, ERs all across New York, they're all just prepared for an onslaught of casualties, and it never comes. Only 18 people were pulled from the wreckage, and the last one they found at 10:30 that night. One firefighter, he said, those who got out, got out. Those who didn't, died.
Right.
There was no in between. Like, you either had minor injuries that could be treated on the street.
Right.
I mean, they said there were about 10,000 injuries that day, but no major ones, really. A few.
It's almost amazing there wasn't more.
But it was
Yeah.
all.
Well, it's
it was
because
well,
what
they
are you gonna
they got people out. First of all, they got people out of Lower Manhattan. So when the towers fell, like they were out. People were out of there.
We're good at that shit.
Yeah, we're good at that.
And you know what? Also, in New York, what I like about us too is that we can form. Like, it's true, we can really form into sort of a mob mentality.
Yeah.
And we know how to move as a unit.
Yeah.
Because that's what the subway system is. That's why when you're a pain in the ass in the subway, when you're not from New York and you don't know what you're doing, and you're just like a fucking monkey wrench in the whole system, and you're like standing in the middle of it's like that's why people get so fucking mad at you, because New York is about cooperation
And coexisting.
Yeah, and it's about moving. And you got to move at speed. You got to know the rules, and you got to look out for other people, and it's about a web.
And New York doesn't get nearly enough credit. When we talk about coexisting, we're not talking about white Wisconsin, everyone's Presbyterian, maybe even a Catholic every now and again. It is different religions, different races, different heights, different
languages.
Different languages. Everybody
Living in
is different,
apartment
sitting
buildings-
right next to each other.
Yeah, living in apartment buildings that are not meant to ever be apartment buildings. You can hear everything and everybody does, and we all collectively agree to ignore each other when we're fucking.
Exactly.
That is a silent agreement between everyone. It's like, as long as it's like you get an hour.
If you can hear your neighbors argue, they can hear you fuck.
Absolutely.
So the rubble of the World Trade Center towers, it's stacked 7. And one of the things that they always wonder, it's like, where did all that go? Why is it not higher? It's because there were 6 stories below them that these collapsed down into, and that is now where the 9/11 museum is. It's the whole 9/11 museum is underground, and it is amazing to see that. So forensic scientists, they worked for months. There's this great book that I read called Teasing Secrets from the Dead about a forensic scientist who worked on Waco and 9/11. She was the one that identified David Koresh, but she talked about how these forensics people would work in 12-hour shifts for months and months in these tents around Ground Zero,
Trying to get people closure.
Identifying, like, they was like, okay, I've got a leg. Does anyone else have a leg? It's
Impossible.
And I think this is impressive. They were able to identify 60% of the victims. And most of these people, and you look at, in the museum, they had this thing called a composite, which is about 2 feet tall, maybe 10 feet around. It is a cut from the wreckage. And by the way, the museum is just full of wreckage. It's just full of steel, of the beams. And this composite is, you see, and it's about 6 floors that are all compressed into something that's about 3 feet tall.
Right. And this is also something that made 9/11 really live on very, very long in a tangible sense to New York, because when they were building the Freedom Tower, the reason it took so long was because they would find a bone.
Yeah.
They would stop all construction, try to find the DNA with the bone.
Yeah.
So it was a start and stop process.
The last body identified was in 2013, just 2 years ago.
Right.
A firefighter.
It's very real. That's what my cousin did. My cousin was a part of the team. So he was the Secret Service. They went because they brought a lot of the rubble to the dump. They brought it to Staten Island.
Yeah, fresh kills.
Yeah, and they sifted through it looking for body parts. And we have friends that were first responders, and it's It was very real and very intense.
Yeah.
Yep.
The final.
And then we didn't even bring up ever the people that fake their death during 9/11. Though that shit's really interesting too, which we got to go into at some point.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
later.
the people that faked their death, and the people, and the woman who wasn't there that pretended like she was in the tower.
Very interesting.
Everyone's trying to benefit off of these things, and we'll also have to talk about some gangs up in Harlem settled all their beefs.
It was in Washington Heights.
Washington Heights.
Yeah,
there
they
was-
settled a lot of beefs
The
that
cops
night.
were a little bit busy.
Yeah, the cops were a little bit
so-
busy, and the gangs took advantage of
Yes,
that,
they
and
did.
it is fascinating. So the final toll, 2,753 civilians, 343 firefighters, 23 NYPD officers, 37 Port Authority officers, 10,000 treated for injuries. That's New York City alone. Pentagon, 125 military personnel and civilians, 24 people aboard the airliner. And in Pennsylvania was 45 passengers. And the last building to fall on September 11th would come at 5:20 p.m. that day. Building 7, which we will discuss at length in our next episode.
The cornerstone of all conspiracy thought.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And
it's
for
very interesting.
good fucking reason
Very
as well.
interesting. Yes.
There is because again, it's real, and then there are mysteries at the center of this thing. Of course, there's gonna
Of
be
course.
that are very fishy.
But
Yeah.
we'll get into that. Yeah. So
we'll-
anyway,
we'll get into all the conspiracy theories.
the victims and the heroes.
and we're
Unbelievable, into the families of the victims and the families of the heroes. Thank you. And I've heard some people, and I know people being like they worked in the financial business. You referenced the story of the secretary. The vast majority of people, they were not the ones that caused the economic collapse.
Yeah.
They're
just
janitors,
making
they're
money.
secretaries,
Yeah.
their husbands, their wives. They are just trying to work and retire.
And there's, they talk about this one guy here. Family's talking about this guy, and they're like, he wanted to be a history teacher. Like he took a job as a stockbroker because he had all of a sudden he had a family.
It's a job. You gotta make money.
Yeah, you got to make money. Like he wanted to put his kids through school, and it's like he was a history buff. And what he
how many temps died on 9/11?
Oh my God, so many.
damn.
It's crazy.
Oh, just thinking about that, like how many temps do we know? How many people do we know that do temp work?
Temps? No, they're actors. Actors, Marcus. Please.
Can you imagine Nick Turner on the top floors of the 9/11?
Oh my
And
goodness.
we didn't even talk about Windows on the World, which they lost a stat. It was a restaurant at the top of the Trade Center. They lost 75 people, and they got calls from in there, and it just sounds horrifying.
So we're leading up to the anniversary of course, and we're going to be doing episodes about 9/11 up until the week of 9/11 to kind of talk about it. This is our tackling of the subject. Next week's going to be a little bit kookier, probably, but also to me just as serious because I believe that there are things tied to that. They used the events on 9/11 for very specific purposes.
Everyone, yeah.
I think it's important.
There are conspiracies, and there are definitely conspiracies. I wouldn't say it's an inside job, but I'd say that they definitely didn't mind that it happened.
Yes.
Looking at you, Mr. Cheney.
But I would say a thing about this, and a thing about what happened yesterday with the reporter and the cameraman, is that a thing that I've been kind of thinking about since all that kind of happened. I got kind of punched in the gut yesterday watching that footage and watching all this stuff about 9/11. It's really kind of torn up my life a little bit, and I think it's really important that when things are negative and when things are intense like this, I think it's very important to put love and productivity and positivity into the world. I do believe that those kind of vibes are the type of thing that help cure bad shit.
Is this you trying to tell people to watch your pretty faces going
Pretty
to hell?
face going
Is
to
that what's
hell.
happening here?
Just laugh a little bit. Just relax
Just
and
relax.
laugh. 12:15 on
Yes.
Adult Swim.
But yes, we're definitely going to get into the foreign
Sundance.
policy ramifications and just it's
there's-
so big. But I agree with Henry. Hug somebody that you hate today.
Make sure, hug somebody.
You know, everyone's just like tell someone that you love them. If you hate somebody, just like be like, hey, 9/11.
Make
you.
love to somebody that you hate.
Well, I mean, you can make sure it's consensual. In that situation.
That's making love. I want to thank Sammy Coughlin and Megan Fierro Root for their help on research this week. They really help. I mean, this is such a gigantic subject. Both this and next week next week's even bigger. And also the third week, Ooh, boy, this shit's gonna get real weird on that one.
Yeah.
Well, thank everyone. Thank you guys so much for listening to the show and supporting the other shows here on CCR Top Hat Roundtable, page 7, Sex and Other Human Activities. You know, it's just really, it means a lot.
Yeah, and follow lponTheLeft.tumblr.com that we just created yesterday on Ed Gein's birthday. So, hi, Ed Gein, and happy birthday,
Happy
Gein.
birthday, Geen.
Yeah.
And put some titties up on that, because Tumblr's got titties, right?
Tumblr's got so many tits. Someone was telling me yesterday about a woman fucking diddling herself with a handgun.
Well, all right, very interesting.
That is great.
She had great tits, though. From what I've been told, it's good tits.
Equalizing.
And also follow us on Twitter at LP on the Left, at Ben Kissel, at Henry Loves You, at Marcus Parks.
That's right.
And go join the Facebook group and go buy t-shirts at cavecomedyradio.com/merch.
Hail Satan, positive action beats the act of prayer.
All right, hail yourselves, everyone.
And also thanks everyone for listening to the end of our longest episode ever.
Hail me. You know? Yeah, it's long. It's got a lot of stuff in it.
Yeah, it's got a lot. Yeah, Megustalations.
Yeah, Megustalations. For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com. Hey everyone, if you haven't yet, be sure to go to podsurvey.com to take a quick survey to help us get some advertisers and to help us keep this podcast free. That's podsurvey.com/last. Really helps us out a lot. We appreciate every single one of you.
There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
I pressed record.
Press record. That's the most important button.
Sometimes when church, I had killing the babysitter wrapping a bunch of tape around her head. I'm sorry, I just can't get my hands around the song. Let me just try it again. Sometimes when we church, I get my daughter pregnant.
All right, no, redo it again. Redo it.
I don't know how to write a song about Frederick and Rosemary West without including how they raped their own daughter, put a baby in her, and then choked her to death in a rancid basement in Gloucester, England.
Well, I thought we were recording a Christmas album today, so I'm way off. I had no idea who Fred or Mary West were.
My name's Terry Tingleton, and I write songs about serial killers for Light FM.
Terry Kingleton?
And I write songs about serial killers for Light FM.
Right.
All right, we've established this.
That's great. Yes.
I've done it again. I wrote a song about Jeffrey Dahmer called I'm Hungry for Your Bones. And it did not do well on the charts.
No, I remember that. Yeah, as a matter of fact, we were banned for 3 weeks.
I am not a successful man. I live in a tent outside of a Motel 6 somewhere in Valdosta, Georgia. But I will continue to write my songs because a broken clock's always right twice.
All right, well, the hour's up. Thank you so much. Get out of here.
I was expecting this. I gotta go.
Welcome to the last podcast on the left, everyone. That's Marcus Parks. I'm Ben Kissel. We're joined by the very talented Henry Zabrowski as well.
Today's topic is disgusting.
Spooky, ooky, but it's about love at the same time.
Is it?
Yeah, Fred and Mary West.
Okay, we'll say it's about soulmates. And
Yeah,
sometimes,
right.
sometimes having a soulmate is a beautiful, wonderful thing that lets you know that there's good and kindness in this universe. But sometimes those souls belong to two monsters who should have been put down at very young ages.
Like Ronald and Nancy Reagan.
Yeah,
Think
trickle
about-
down.
Think about
That's
it.
what gets me mad.
Yeah.
Trickle down.
Trickle down.
And of course, we're doing Fred and Mary West today, or Fred and Rose West today. I always call her Mary, just sounds better.
No, Rose is more appropriate because Rose is more of a prostitute's name.
Yes, yes.
But we're doing Fred and Rose West today. The reason why we're doing England's most notorious serial killers this week is because we can finally officially announce that we're going to be coming to England for a full tour in late March.
Late March,
Yay.
UK, look out.
And we're saying this right now. we're going to fuck up some names
bad.
in this episode. But by the time we get to the UK, we will be better at pronouncing names.
Yep.
Because I don't want to. Because someone told me that there's a thing called getting glassed
Yes.
in the UK.
What's that all about?
It's exactly what it sounds like.
What, they throw glass at you?
No, it means that if you piss somebody off in the UK, and tell listeners, tell us if I'm right or if I'm wrong. What they'll do is that they'll wait for you to be in the middle of like drinking your beer, and they'll come up to you and just smash the end of the glass into your face.
Yeah.
Oh, that's classic college stuff. I can deal with that.
Yeah, so let's we're gonna start off on the 23rd of March in Cardiff. Then we're going to Birmingham. We're gonna do the Glasgow Comedy Festival. We're gonna play Salford, which is in Manchester. Salford.
I don't know.
And then we're gonna end the whole thing up in London on Friday the 27th. The tickets go on sale on Friday on the 12th.
It's going to be a great show. All right,
And Salford is the first place that Paul McCartney ever had a chicken wing.
I've actually heard that story.
That's a fun fact.
I believe
lots of fun facts.
I believe that's entirely true. As a matter of fact, at that chicken wing restaurant, that's where Ringo was working. So that's where he
and he's back there now.
He's right.
He's back there now having a great time telling everybody that he's still the...
Yep, he's still the shitty Beatle.
Oh, you like it? You want to get... I've got teriyaki. Oh, they let me know my own flavors. This one's called Octopus's Garden. It tastes like fucking squid.
Oh, I love Octopus's Garden. That's my favorite kind of chicken wing. All right, let's get let's get to Fred and Rose West.
Oh, and you can go to gigsandtours.com to buy tickets for the last podcast on the Left Live show in England.
Before we begin this episode, well, you know what I'd say? You know, if you've got a daughter, don't touch her.
No, leave.
You know what I mean? Leave him alone.
Leave him alone.
And really, if you've got a son, don't touch him.
Don't touch your kids.
For a day. After you listen to this episode, just don't even look at your kid. All right, let them just kind of sit in their own juices for a while. They don't need too much more meddling.
They're fine.
So, Fred and Rose West. Between 1967 and 1987, West, alone and later with his second wife, Rosemary West, tortured and raped numerous young girls, murdering at least 11, including a couple of their own family members. And the crimes often occurred in the couple's homes in the city of Gloucester at 25 Midland Road, but most of the murders took place in the most infamous address in England, 25 Cromwell Street.
Have you seen pictures of the address sign of 25 Cromwell Street?
No.
Is it just made of bones?
It looks like it fell off of like an HR Huff and Puff, whatever show. It's just like, it's all like big doodly writings, like I guess was like common in England in the 70s.
Let's see it. It looks far too friendly for what happened there, I think. I can't get a date off of Tinder, and this man was married twice. Yeah. That's upsetting to me.
But did you see the women that he was married to?
Were they women or were they men? They were women.
Yes, they were women. Let's start with the early life.
I will put it this way. Rose West was kind of attractive in like been hit in the head with a frying pan, eating nothing but bangers and mash kind of way.
Yeah, she was a prostitute. People paid to have sex with her, and Fred just got it for free.
All right, so Fred West, let's start with the early life of this guy, as we usually do with the heavy hitters.
Don't eat lunch. If you're eating food, just stop eating food right now.
Please.
This is going to get really, really bad. This is among the most disturbing that we've ever covered, if not the most disturbing heavy hitter.
Mm-hmm.
He was born in the small rural village of Muchmarkel in Hertfordshire. They're all bad names. Fred West never lived in a place that had a good name. They're all awful fucking names.
Yeah.
They all just sound like candies.
Yeah. They don't have the fun American names like Pleasant Point or just like Place to Be.
No, they've got names like Coatbridge and Lanarkshire.
Yeah.
So he was born in Muchmarkel in Hertfordshire in 1941. That's 120 miles from London. His father, Walter, was a cowman and was...
What is a cowman?
It's a cow, like a cowboy. He raised cows.
But he's a rapist?
Yeah.
And that's why he's a cow man?
Yes,
That's implied, I think.
You're giving my band a very bad name here.
This is an opportunity for you to plug your band.
The Cowman album out in March.
That's great. Never miss an opportunity, even when you're talking about the father of a man who raped and murdered countless women.
He was many years older than his wife, Daisy. She was just 16 when they married and was a lifelong morbidly obese woman.
Daisy is not a name for a person, it's the name for an animal.
I agree. Daisy's a terrible name for a gal. Unless your name is Daisy out there and you're listening, I think you're beautiful.
So Fred, he was the second of 6 children that Daisy and Walter would have over the short span of 10 years. It was one after another with these people. It never stopped. Later on in life, Fred would routinely